Now, it might be that you're building out a feature that allows the user to perhaps complete a few options and then want to perhaps reset the form. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about two different ways to reset your form and why you should choose one approach or the other. Now for this, we're going to add a new button next to our create button. So go ahead and duplicate this. We're going to change our button type over to just a type of button. Now I've set up a button modifier as well of gray. And inside the button, we're going to add some text, reset form. So we should then end up with something like this. We can click, click, click. It's a type of button. It's not going to conflict or submit our form like our button type of submit would, which then fires off all of our validation. So when our form is then populated, we see something like this. We see each value has an empty string. Now it might be that we get quite far in the form and the user perhaps realizes they've entered the wrong information. I'm sure you've done this at one point in time. So it would be quite nice to have some kind of reset. Now to achieve this, we're going to bind a click event to our reset form button. Now we could have some kind of handle reset method. However, just because this is a nice one-liner, what we're going to do is just directly use this form dot and we have reset. Now we have reset and we have reset form. First, we're going to look at reset to understand how it differs and then talk about reset form directly. Now, if we jump into some curly braces and add form.submitted, we can then save this out. We then see false. This is what we'd expect by default. Our form has not been submitted. When we then press create, that property then gets reflected over to true. Now, if we press reset, you can see that our form values are all reset to null. We could then start typing, blur, and then this is then committed to our model. We can then reset and this value stays as true. So really the only difference is this is aimed at a form control, whereas our reset form is then aimed at the form, its validation, and all things with it, such as this submitted event. So if we want a true 100% resetted form with all the flags that go with it underneath, you should definitely turn to using our form.reset form. Now, one thing with this is we could want to move this into a callback because if you have a look, we can pass in a value, which means that let's say we have some information perhaps coming down from our parent component, and this is a great reason to adopt one-way data flow. We could then pass in that initial object. So here we're going to say initial state and press save. We can then reset our form and you can see that it's then been populated with those values. So let's say that a user as well could be editing an existing form field. They then make a mistake. They've lost track of where they are. They can easily just hit reset and go back to that initial point in time. So this is why I encourage you not to use two-way binding, because if we use one-way data binding, we will then have this object fully available to us as a component input. So this is going to make our lives far easier. And you can see that we don't need to pass the entire form state object in. We could pass one property or as many as we have. So that's how to reset a form. We've looked at this submitted flag, and in the next lesson, I want to show you something quite interesting as well using this submitted, just to give our users a bit of feedback once they have in fact submitted the form. So I hope you like this lesson. It's a short and easy one on form resetting. Let's dive into the next one and start implementing a nice feature with our form.submitted.